In a previous video I looked at Christensen's book, The Innovator's Dilemma, and it's sort of connected with that I want to talk today about education as a public good. And again, there are a couple of levels at which I want to think about this. We hear a lot about education as a public good. When many times people mean that education is something that's good for the public, education is a public service. I want to be very clear about this, that we need to clarify concepts, be clear about concepts, and when I say education is a public good, I have a very specific usage in mind which draws upon the work of economists. Now, when economists talk about something being a public good, they mean something very specific. They mean something that is non-excludable and something that is non-consumable. Well, what does that mean? Well, non-consumable means it's not used up by me using it. I can breathe the air, I can drink the water, I can make use of public spaces, and they're not taken up and used or destroyed by my use of them. Non-excludable means that you can't cut other people off from the use of those things. You can't stop people having access to the air. You can't stop people having access to public spaces. So the public good, a public good has these specific properties. And the first thing to say is knowledge is a public good. I can't stop you getting hold of knowledge. I mean, you may watch my videos in the hope of gaining some knowledge, but you can go other places. It's not, I don't hold the control of the pathway to true knowledge. If you want to find something out, you can find it out. And it's non-consumable in the sense that when I pass knowledge on to you, I don't lose the knowledge just because I've passed it on to you. It remains with me even though it's gone to you as well. So knowledge does satisfy those two conditions. But it ought to be immediately obvious to you that education, or at least schooling, is not a public good in this sense. It may be very good for the public and it may be a good idea for all sorts of reasons, but you can shut people out of a school. If the classroom is full and no more people can get in, then it's excludable. You stop people getting in simply by the size of the classroom. And schooling does get used up. I mean, you reach a certain age and you're thrown out of school because you're too old. It's not the same. Schooling or education as a whole is not necessarily a public good, although there are some things like knowledge and information that are public goods. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because the theory that relates to public goods states that in economic terms, the price of a public good must be zero. It must be free to everybody. And it's not because it's a good idea to make it, or it's a human right for everybody to have access to these things. All of those things may be true of education or of knowledge, but that's not why the price is zero. The price is zero is because if I offer to sell you information or sell you knowledge at a particular price, I'll sell you the secret of doing educational research for £5, somebody else will come along after me and say, no, I can offer you the secret of educational research for £3. And then someone else will come along and say, no, I can do that for £2. And there is no limit to that. The price will drop to zero. And it's actually true that the price of knowledge is zero. Now that's always been true. If I want knowledge about how my car works, I can go to a public library, find a book. It's always been true that I've been able to get hold of information, perhaps not at actually absolute zero price, but at a fairly low price. I can get information about how my car works, how to repair it, find the manuals, do the job myself. All of those things are possible. With the internet now, it's even more clear that the Wikipedia may ask me for a contribution every now and then, but essentially Wikipedia offers you knowledge for nothing. And people are on the internet giving away their insights every day. Your problem is not that you're being asked to pay a lot of money for knowledge. Your problem now is that you have to decide what is reliable, what is trustworthy on the internet among all those people who are busy offering it to you. And of course, knowledge or information might be expensive to create in the first place. Collecting information, collecting data, finding out how many people are in school, finding out how many people pass certain examinations. Collecting information may cost money, but once it's collected and it's printed or stored in whatever form, the price drops immediately because it will leak. Someone will be prepared to sell it cheaper, and that has created a crisis in academic publishing. People are not prepared to pay to read journals to get the information anymore. Let's park that to one side for a minute, but let's follow through the idea with knowledge is free, information is free, and therefore recognise also that what I want from schooling, well, what I want from most days of the week, what I don't want is knowledge. I don't want to know how to mend my car. I want somebody, I want an embodied person who knows how to fix my car. I'll take my car to that person and pay them for mending my car. I'm paying somebody for embodying and putting the knowledge into practice. So we need to be careful when we claim that education is a public good. Then we need to be careful which aspects of education we're looking at. If we're looking at teaching in the classroom, clearly that is not a public good. It costs money, it costs resources to put a teacher in front of a classroom. It may be, and it is, a desirable thing to do. It will enrich the lives of the people who are learning, but it's got a price. Knowledge itself doesn't have a price. It's given away free, and that creates the difficulty that we have in publishing, because there's the problem of quality. Who do you trust? Where do you go to find trustworthy information? And that question is, or was answered by the academic journals. The academic journals, and I've been in a very interesting meeting some years ago when an editor of a journal, publisher of a journal in fact, was saying the academic authors who write the article can put it on their website, on their personal website, archive their version of the paper, because it becomes something different when it's published in a journal. Now, it becomes something different because the journal, reputable journals, are vouchsafing the quality of that information that you're getting from the journal. And so a trustworthy journal is doing a job of badging, of giving their mark of approval to an article so that you and I can have some faith in it. But that only works for journals that already have a reputation, journals and publishers that are already known to us. Just getting a paper into a journal that doesn't do that, that doesn't guarantee quality, that doesn't stand as a measure for quality, that doesn't add anything to the article. You might just as well post your articles directly onto the internet, and some people will believe them and some people won't. So my point is here that education is a public good only in some of its aspects. It may be a human right, it may be a wonderful thing for the benefit of the public, but in a technical, economic sense, only certain aspects of education are a public good, particularly the knowledge that people have is a public good. Here am I giving away my insights, my perspectives for nothing. All you have to do is have the right equipment, and you can watch my videos and learn anything that I think I have learned. You can pick up for nothing. So there's a precision of language, and I'll say this again, I think it's our job as academics to be precise over language. Nobody pays much attention to academics, but academics the duty that academics owe to the world is clarity of concepts. So education is not in its entirety a public good. Maybe a human right, it may be a very good thing for the public in its entirety, I'm not sure about that, but in as far as knowledge is concerned, price is nothing. Now that's a really major problem, and it's a major problem in the context of Christensen's book, The Innovator's Dilemma, because if the price is nothing, we have institutions that are built on the economic business model of universities and schools is that we pay for them because they're giving us something of value. Well, they give us something of value if they give us a qualification. They give us a qualification which means that we can go off and use that as a bargaining chip in getting employment, in getting respect, in getting social contacts, all sorts of things that we do as a result of having qualifications. It's also providing us something in terms of, let's be honest, very few people are going to teach themselves by going to the library and reading encyclopedias, in imbibing all of the knowledge that they can without some stimulus. We need people who are giving us something else. They're giving us motivation, they're giving us encouragement, they're giving us guidance as to what the next best step is. And for that we pay, because that's not strictly knowledge, that's some kind of embodied knowledge, like the car mechanic, it's some kind of embodied wisdom, and we pay the body that is able to provide that service. So in talking about this, we do need to be careful in distinguishing the different aspects and elements. The issue in Christensen's Innovator's Dilemma was that suppliers of goods and services tend to follow their customers, their clients, their audience upmarket. As people have got elementary degrees, elementary education, they've moved on to want secondary education. As they've got secondary education, they want to go to university. When they got to university, they want master's degrees. And universities and schools have progressively in the words of John Pratt, a former colleague of mine, they've been following academic drift. They're becoming more and more specialised and providing higher and higher qualifications. And the price has gone up accordingly. But Christensen's thesis was that as they go up in price, they leave a gap in the market where a cheap competitor can come in and undercut them. And since the price of knowledge is always zero, there's always going to be that danger that underneath the provision of education from the Rolls-Royce of universities, there's going to be something cheaper that people can get their hands on. And they can get their hands on it on the internet, in the public libraries. And we're seeing in some ways now the problem of a business model that provides prices education according to what has formerly been the case, the folly traced in the innovator's dilemma, the folly of companies which moved up market, and didn't recognise when a disruptive technology had been introduced, those companies went out of business as their market, as their audience was cut away from underneath them. So serious consequences, and we're seeing shifts now. We've seen shifts in academic publishing. Academic publishing, people used to be charged for reading academic journals, for having access to reading academic journals. Fewer and fewer people are prepared to pay for reading academic articles, as fewer and fewer people seem to be prepared to pay for listening to music. The whole way in which we fund and finance the knowledge generating business is shifting, and if we don't pay attention to it carefully, we're likely to see a collapse of many educational institutions. And in order to understand what's going on, we need clarity over concepts. So this is what I'm saying to you now. We need to be careful about how we talk about issues in education. We need to be doing our duty of clarifying concepts and not talk loosely just because education, we have a social conscience and our value is that education is a human right, and we do. I mean, I do believe that everybody should have access to education, but that shouldn't make me talk unclearly about whether it is a public good or whether it is just good for the public. That's the job we're here to do, is to be clear.